for his continued commitment to shaping a new forward-looking partnership between the West and Africa. Mr. President, we thank you very much. Thank you, William. I say here without fear of any contradiction that your courage to recalibrate the relationship between the West and Africa, you have taken the lead and you have demonstrated to us that you are a true friend. I also extend our sincere appreciation to heads of state and government, and all other delegates whose participation, insights, and commitment have enriched these deliberations and strengthened our shared resolve. We leave this summit with a shared understanding that Africa cannot continue to occupy the margins of global financial system while carrying some of the greatest economic potential anywhere in the world. The current global financial architecture continues to impose very high borrowing costs on African economies, constraining development financing, and limiting the ability of our nations to invest at scale for required transformation. Africa, therefore, must have a stronger voice in shaping the rules that govern global finance, trade, technology, and development, because the future of the global economy will increasingly be shaped by Africa's people, Africa's markets, Africa's energy potential, Africa's minerals, Africa's innovation, and Africa's ideas. And this summit has made one thing unmistakably clear. Africa is not approaching the future with hesitation. Africa is approaching the future with ambition. We have seen very strong commitments on energy transition and green industrialization because we understand that no country can industrialize in the dark. We have advanced discussions on digital infrastructure, artificial intelligence, and innovation because Africa must enter the AI age, not only as a consumer of technology, but as a developer of technology. We have strengthened partnerships around food systems, manufacturing, healthcare, and the blue economy because Africa must create value from its own resources and expand opportunity for its own people. Above all, this summit has affirmed a new model of engagement between Africa and its partners. Not a relationship based on dependency, not a relationship defined by extraction, but a relationship grounded in mutual respect, co-investment, shared prosperity, and sovereign equality. Kenya is proud to have co-hosted this important conversation here in Nairobi, and we thank all heads of state and government, business leaders, development and partners who have contributed to its success. But the true significance of this summit is not measured by the strength of our speeches. It will be measured by the strength of our delivery. The task before us now is to turn every commitment into capital, dialogue into implementation, and ambition into tangible progress for the people of Africa. Because Africa is not waiting to be invited into the future. Africa is building that future right now with our friends. And from Nairobi, we send a very clear message to the world. Africa is ready to lead, ready to partner, and ready to shape a more balanced and a more prosperous global future. President Macron, from Nairobi, and from me, on behalf of the people of Kenya, I want to say thank you very much for all the discussions we had, the commitments we had on projects and programs ranging from nuclear energy to infrastructure development all the way to our education facilities at the Nairobi University and all the other four universities. On behalf of the government and people of Kenya, I want to say you have truly demonstrated the value of friendship. Thank you very much. From all of us, our best wishes. Allow me now to ask my brother to make his closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, dear William, dear brother, Your Majesty, Head of State and Government, ambassadors and ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, dear William, for not just hosting this summit we co-chaired. This is a big honor for us. But for having created a special, I would say a special taste and a special atmosphere for this summit. I think everybody clearly felt during these few days what being welcomed in Kenya could mean. Nobody had the feeling to be a foreigner here or to be welcomed by you. Everybody had the feeling to be at home and to work collectively. Thanks to you, your perfect organization, and the spirit you had from the very beginning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Permettez-moi de passer en français. Désormais, en effet, je veux vraiment remercier le président Ruto pour la parfaite organisation de ce sommet. Nous avions 35 chefs d'État et de gouvernement, plusieurs ministres, des délégations d'organisations régionales, d'institutions financières, au total plus d'une cinquantaine. Et hier encore, nous étions plus de 6000 avec les chefs d'entreprise. Ici à Nairobi, l'illustration même est la capacité à agir de ce que nous avions entrepris ensemble il y a quelques mois, cher William. Et donc, merci infiniment à vous, à votre gouvernement et au Kenya. Je veux remercier l'ensemble des chefs d'État et de gouvernement et ministres présents et dirigeants.
Directors of institutions and regional organizations who have joined us for this work. We mentioned this morning, both of us, and the President has just reminded us of this, so I don't want to dwell on this. The message is clear. It's a renewed partnership which is on an equal footing, which is clear on challenges and which is facing the future. Please allow me to discuss the results, just in line with what the President has just said. First and foremost, dialogue between public and private. We began yesterday this work discussing the youth, which presented its projects, this private sector, which presented its commitments, and this summit will enable us to arrive at the 23 billion euros of private investment from French and African investors into the African continent, and this will lead to thousands of jobs. The AFIC, the Africa-France Impact Coalition, has 40 heads of state from France and Africa and have discussed this morning in an unprecedented fashion, and this will be long-lasting and sustainable. The report of this work will be transparent, and this coalition will become a significant tool of our economic partnership. And the dialogue this morning, it was fresh and new. President Ruto spoke to captains of industry and asked what would be required in order to do more. We saw our friend, the President of Zambia, who explained clearly the strategy he has on energy vis-a-vis directors so that they invest in his country. That is the meaning of this renewed partnerships. So we're going to implement everything that we have mentioned so that we can share risk and so that we can have considerable projects that will move forward in the field of energy, in terms of electricity grids, renewable energy, something which affects all of the countries who are present here today. Now, as it relates to the reform of the international financial architecture, we had a session which enabled us to move forward with the shared declaration on the financial architecture and a call to action that we will present at the G7 in a few months, and President Ruto will be there with me. So this must be led by captains of industry and leaders. We must work on geopolitical instability. We also need to ensure that we harness raw materials on the African continent. I think that all of the head of state and government are aware of this. We need to lay the foundations of a shared response. So we need to ensure that there is greater responsibility of global economies to correct global imbalances. We must also affirm a strong ambition in a declaration and action plan, and to build an African structure which is more integrated, more effective, and more sovereign. This requires a change in methodology. We must also trust African stakeholders, strengthen the existing instruments, and better coordinate them. In this respect, we have given a mandate to the African Development Bank to be the key stakeholder of this architecture and to develop based on an existing instrument whose headquarters is here in Nairobi, ATD, to ensure that we have an instrument which provides financial guarantees to enable investors right across the globe, African and non-African, to invest further in the continent. On this point, as I said, France will provide capital to ATD, and we will engage together so that within the African Development Bank, all African states who aren't around the table today will join us, and then together we will discuss this with the great economies of the world during G7 to bring about guarantees. As it relates to peace and security, we have a joint document, a final declaration, and we affirmed something that has been forgotten for too long. African solutions must be at the heart of African crises. The tools exist. We have regional frameworks, and we must support these fully. France will step up to the plate and will be a solid partner, and we will reaffirm our determination for sustainable political solutions in the Great Lakes region and in Sudan, because there is no development without stability. Our declaration reaffirmed that cannot be sustainable peace in Africa without the absolute respect of sovereignty. We must do away with external interference, and we must do away with the privatization of security. And we also have collectively mobilized, and this is in our declaration, there is support for all members. Thank you to the Prime Minister that raised this around the table earlier on, so that we may support this initiative which seeks to do away with the abusive use of the veto at the UN Security Council. These are strong initiatives, and this message, I will take it to the headquarters of the African Union, where I will have a bilateral meeting with the President of the African Union Commission and the Secretary General of the United Nations, so that we may continue to support the Nairobi Declaration. Finally, several roundtables were organized on sectoral initiatives, which have all built balanced and useful partnerships to strengthen the sovereignty of Africa. We have the creation of a financial vehicle which seeks to mobilize private investors, and this has been approved. We announced the launch of the Farm Plus initiative with PACO, which will carry out actions which are in line with the factors mentioned by the heads of state and government this morning. We need to support stakeholders so that we can ensure that we have more resilient agriculture, so that we can continue to innovate. We have the FASA fund, which is a multi-donor fund, and France will join this fund along with other French companies. In terms of the blue economy, we will support the development of a strategic sector with investments, infrastructure, training, upskilling. Many financial stakeholders announced their commitment to this, and there will also be a partnership among a number of countries and the National Maritime School. In terms of AI, we laid the foundations of a partnership between Africa and France to mobilize the potential of African countries to strengthen internet access with a number of projects, in particular projects, submarine projects that will link Africa to Europe, with innovation projects, with seed funds, with the creation of a network of Africa Forward AI clusters that will enable any African countries who wish to do so to develop AI that is sovereign, in line with what we mentioned with the President yesterday as it relates to youth. We have also collectively supported a grant program, a high-level grant program that will enable exchanges between African talent in France and French citizens in Africa. Finally, on health, the roundtables have enabled the launch of a number of initiatives, such as initiatives to support local production, Africa Initiative for Medical Access and Manufacturing, AIM 2030 of the World Bank, which will double local production on African soil by 2030. There are existing projects that we have begun to support that have been developed in South Africa, Kenya, in Rwanda, Egypt, Morocco, Senegal, Ghana, just to name a few. Technology transfer projects to ensure end-to-end production, and technology transfer for vaccines, where the Institut Pasteur will work with the Institut Pasteur in Dakar. And this will lead to concrete results so that we can build resilient health systems with investment in local production and training in a number of countries, with national platforms launched by a number of you here. Now, all of this will be detailed in the deliverables that will be published this evening on the website, and which will be presented by the Africa Forward Summit Board. In all fields, since yesterday, in absolutely all of these domains, we have already achieved concrete results, concrete mobilizations that have been signed throughout this summit, and that we will continue to pursue. This is an essential milestone in the construction of new relationships between France and Africa. Africa is an immense continent. President, you gave us the figures to demonstrate this earlier on. It has been 10 years, and for some, it has been 25 years that we've heard many people say, oh, Africa, let us not forget that this is a continent with a great future. Well, that is not correct. It is a continent which is extremely important in the present. It has the highest growth in the world, and that is to say that this continent must take its own future into its hands. Africa is here, present and strong, and those who don't work with the African continent, those who continue to take resources to transfer them elsewhere, all of those will challenge their own future. What we have done at the Africa Forward Summit is, hand in hand with President Ruto, we have said that Africa is here. Africa organized its own summit, and France is here at its side. You gave a magnificent example of this, President, the ability to host, to welcome, to think, to stimulate, to dispute particular solutions. We've included investors, creators, heads of state and government. We have shown the example of this completely reinvented ambition. We are here at your side, and together we will continue to take action. We have started this work, and we will ramp up this work, believe me. Thank you very much to the President, and thank you to all of you here for this first Africa Forward Summit. This is just the beginning.
Yes, I'm informed that
L'on vient de me dire qu'il fallait passer un contrôle à présent.
we can pass.
Yes, Your Excellencies, we have 3 questions. Let's have the 3 questions from Gloria, Sophie, and Tendaishe Chitima. I propose that we have them back to back so that you can answer them after that. Kindly, let's have the questions.
Thank you so No sound. 1, 2, and
Get her a mic that works, or she can come nearer here or somewhere.
Thank you so much, President Macron and President Ruto. My name is Sophie Mkwena from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. My question is that there's a perception out there, particularly from the Africans on the continent, that the continent was shortchanged during colonialism, and we are likely going to do the same, see the same. Can you kindly assure Africans on the continent that this time around this will not be the case? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bonsoir, messieurs les présidents. Anthony Lebos pour la chaîne française FM TV. Une question d'abord à tous les deux. Après les accords...
So some major agreements, you've got the G7 upcoming, and Mr. Ruto, you will be representing Africa there. Question, what progress, tangible progress has been made? What do you expect to get at the G7 with the others present? And the second question for President Macron, and concerning the hantavirus risk, could you please tell us, is France